What's going on, beautiful people? My name is Angel here with Ivy Organics, and today I'm going to show you guys how to plant your tomatoes and keep them fruiting all season long. After that, we're going to show you the benefits of eggshells in your garden, and lastly, I'm going to show you how to make traditional Mexican salsa in a molcajete. Without further ado, let's get to planting these tomatoes. What's up, guys? Angel here, proud member of Ivy Organics, where all of our products are innovative, effective, organic, and USA made. Right now I'm going to show you guys how to plant a tomato with some tips that every gardener should know. Before we begin, I know you guys haven't seen me on this channel for about a year. My last lesson was in Spanish, actually, teaching you about the importance of the 6 macronutrients found in this fertilizer that all plants need. If you want to check that out, the link is up here. When I'm not gardening or working for Ivy Organics, you can catch me doing stand-up comedy. I'm an LA-based comic, but I also travel all around the country, so you can check me out, follow me on Instagram at Angel Hernandez Comedy. I'm putting my Instagram handle in the description below. Don't forget to check that out, and hopefully I get to see you guys at a show sometime soon. Helpful tip number 1 is get the biggest possible pot you can get. Tomato roots typically tend to grow 6 feet and above, which goes to show these smaller pots really aren't going to do the trick. You're going to want a 10-gallon or preferably a 20-gallon pot like this one here. If you're planting your tomatoes in a 1 or a 3-gallon pot, you're setting them up for failure. So again, you really want to go for the biggest possible pot you can. Helpful tip number 2 is you gotta know which soil to use for your tomatoes. If you're planting your tomatoes in a pot, you want to use a potted mix, which means you're retaining more water. Now for your in-ground plantings, you're gonna want to use something like this, which is more of a composted blend. Remember, if you use this for your in-ground plantings, you're gonna get what's called root rot. Now, if you put this in your potted plants, you're gonna dry out your plants completely. So remember, know what kind of plants you're using, what kind of soils you're using. Be clear on what the distinction is there. Helpful tip number 3, unlike most fruits and vegetables, tomatoes like to be planted deep. As large as the plant is, 50% of this is going to go under the ground, and that's going to help stability. It's going to help you get more fruit out of your plant, and it's going to be better overall for you to get the best possible tomatoes you can get. But before we do any of that, we need to be sure that we remove all of these excess leaves and shoots, because at the end of the day, they're living organisms. We can't plant them. They will rot the plant. And so let's begin to remove all of these here. So it's ready to be planted now. We've removed the leaves and the shoots, and this tomato is ready to go. Helpful tip number 3.5 is actually when you pull out your plant from the pot, sometimes they're gonna have this here. This is called being root bound. And this can be very negative for an early plant. You're gonna wanna just rip it off. Don't be afraid to tear all of these things off, because they can just twirl all around your plant. And the roots are gonna grow back immediately when you plant them in. They've got the soil, they've got all the nutrients they need, especially after you put the fertilizer and all that on there. All right, so we've got all the root bound roots. You see how everything's draping down how they should be? Now we're ready to plant the tomato in there. Get all the soil. So by planting it deeper, the stem is gonna push out more roots, creating stability and leading to the best possible tomatoes we could possibly get. All right, so now we're doing an in-ground tomato planting in what has historically been Tomato Alley here. Before we get to it, remember we have to cut off the leaves on the lower stem of the tomato. I just removed the root-bound roots there. We got these hanging, and we're ready to plant. Let's get this, remember, as deep as possible. You want to plant it. So for the second half of the backfill, I'm going to use this in-ground compost blend. It's going to be really beneficial to the tomatoes. So I'm mixing almost like a 50-50 mix with the native soil and the compost mix. And you just want to crumble all that up, mix it all around, and make sure you get it as high as possible. Helpful tip number 4 is to feed your plants. IV Organic Fertilizer has the 6 macronutrients that all plants need for a healthy life, being nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Calcium is an important building block in the cell walls of all plants, especially for tomatoes. It can lead to a disease called tomato blossom end rot. And by having calcium in your soil, you can ensure that this disease won't be in your tomatoes and your tomatoes will have the best possible yield they can. Now we're fertilizing the in-ground tomato here. Helpful tip number 5 is to apply our 3-in-1 plant guard. For a young plant like this, it's really going to help with transplant shock, sun stress, and it serves as a pest repellent, so your plant is going to be off to an excellent start. So those are my top 5 helpful tips. If you guys have any of your own helpful tips, let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing your helpful tomato tips and incorporating them into future tomato lessons. This is my second time on the IV Organics YouTube channel. If you guys have any sort of feedback, any criticism, constructive, positive, negative, please let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please make sure to give us a thumbs up. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the push bell notification to be informed on when our next video will be. As I shared with you in the intro, I have 2 more videos coming up. One will be about the benefits of eggshells, and the other will be how to make traditional Mexican salsa. So keep a lookout for those. Don't forget to keep growing with IV Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.